I felt for years that Kay Bailey Hutchison didn't represent the state of Texas well because we are a conservative state. We should be leading the charge, and you never saw Kay Bailey Hutchison lead on anything. It is time to replace her. And as I've said repeatedly, Ted Cruz is the guy to send up there to do it. But let's ask one of the guys that I respect the most in the United States Senate, Jim DeMint. Senator,
Michael,
how are you? Good to have you on.
Thank you so much, and thank you for getting the word out about Ted. We need some help up here, and you're right. A lot of the senators who say they're conservative back home don't lead when they get here to the Senate, and the country's at a critical time, and we've looked around the country. There's no one that I'm more convinced has the courage to stand up against the Washington establishment, including Republicans, to help turn this country around. And I just want to thank the folks in Texas. Last election, thousands of Texans helped us elect Marco Rubio and Pat Toomey and Mike Lee. They sent thousands of dollars through the Senate Conservatives Fund. And this year, Texans, we have 3 times more contributors from Texas than Dewhurst does, and he lives in Texas. So this is very much a Texas phenomenon, but people all over the country want Ted to win because they know he's going to help us when he gets here.
Senator Jim DeMint, give us an example of a case where, as you said, sometimes we've got to beat the Republicans in the Senate. What's one of those issues?
Well, earmarks has been an issue. I mean, if you've got 535 congressmen and senators who think it's their job to bring home the bacon, you end up $15-16 trillion in debt. And that's what happens as long as there's a parochial instrument that people can get in every bill. But the biggest problem I've had trying to eliminate them was first to convince the Republican leadership, and they would not be convinced until we elected new senators in the last cycle. And every one of those new senators came in having pledged to get rid of earmarks, and we banned them for 2 years. But I'm afraid that ban will go away if we don't elect the right senators this time. And Ted, just like a lot of the others that we're supporting around the country, believe this is time to focus on what's good for America. Certainly the best way we can help Texas and South Carolina is to keep our country from going bankrupt. So I think Ted Cruz has his priorities straight, and you were encouraging people to vote. That's the most important thing. This is a runoff election in the heat of the summer, and the people who care the most are going to get out and vote, and I'm just hoping those will be Ted Cruz people.
You know, Senator Jim DeMint, when I look at the races where you have involved yourself, and you seem to be winning almost every one of them. Marco Rubio was down 50 points in the polls when that thing started against the sitting governor that had the Republican governors, the Republican senators money behind him, had the Republican national establishment behind him. Rand Paul in Kentucky, where the Republican hand-picked candidate, y'all went in and you beat him. Rand Paul beat him. And I see case after case of this going on, and it seems like you're actually up against the actual Republican establishment.
I am.
I mean, the literal day-to-day executive offices have a Republican logo out in front of their you're having to go against not only people in the Republican Party, but the Republican Party.
Well, I am, and I'm not the most popular person up here for some of the Republican establishment, particularly the K Street lobbyists they're here to get something from government, and that's not whether they do business in my state or not. This is not the time to get something for companies in South Carolina or for South Carolina. The best way I can help my state is to save my country. And my getting involved in races, it's really not so much me that's making the difference as I've helped through Senate Conservatives Fund create a mechanism where grassroots conservatives all over the country can get involved in races. But we raised over $9 million in the last election, but the average gift was $45. So these are not big rollers, and they're not in Washington. They're just grassroots Americans who believe that Marco Rubio can make a difference, or Rand Paul. And they know every Senate election is a national election because Ted Cruz will cast votes for the whole country, and that's why it's important that he comes up here and he's not beholden to Republican establishment or the K Street. He understands the Constitution. He's not afraid to talk about limited government and to speak very clearly about what we need to do. So I'm asking for help from the people of Texas. They need to help us turn this country away from a cliff, and we know that Ted Cruz is going to do what he says when he gets here.
Senator Jim DeMint, where will we be January 1st on Obamacare if, hypothetically, we take back the Senate but lose the White House? If that happened.
If we lose the White House, then we're going to have to work on ways of defunding Obamacare and getting states to push back like a lot of them have. It's going to be hard because we won't be able to pass a repeal and have the president sign it. But we'll just have to improvise and do what we can to defund it, and then we'll probably be forced into changing it, which I do not want to do, because once you accept that you can fix it, you forget that it's built on the foundation of socialized medicine. So I'm just thinking optimistically right now, Michael. I think Mitt Romney's going to run a good race down the stretch. We need to take the Senate. Otherwise, Romney will not be able to get anything done. But this is a now or never election as far as I'm concerned. I think this may be the last chance we have to get it right. And there's no need for states like Texas to send a senator up here who's going to be looking to make deals and to do status quo business in Washington. We're going to have to we need a lot of Scott Walker type people here in Washington. They're willing to take the political consequences of making hard decisions. But very quickly, as the voters found out in Wisconsin, if we make the hard decisions, life gets better for everybody. It's
right.
Not like we have to take apart our country. Our country will work if we just let it.
Two quick questions, Senator DeMint, because I want to make sure we have a call to action. Number one, are you part of the group that's coming in with Rand Paul and Mike Lee and Pat Toomey this week?
I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get there or not. We're looking at coming in for a couple of events on Friday. A lot depends on my schedule here in Washington, but you couldn't have two better representatives than Mike Lee and Rand Paul. They are the faces of, I think, a new Republican Party who they're willing to stand for limited government. They're not afraid of the leadership or the establishment here. And so I tell you, if Texas got those two visitors, they don't need me. But I'm hoping to get down there just to show the folks in Texas how important it is to us.
Well, and you've been here before, and you stood with Ted Cruz early. I got 20 seconds. If people want to help you fund the efforts around the country to not just take back the Senate, but the right way, where do they go to contribute online?
Well, SenateConservatives.com.
SenateConservatives.com. Senator Jim DeMint, thanks for the good work you do.
Thanks a lot, Michael. Bye-bye.
I'll tell you what, if you want to look at how a guy votes, that's probably the best in the United States Senate. Ted Cruz, you can go out and vote early today, any precinct in your county.
Sometimes harsh, always honest. Michael Berry.